Tips and tricks to haggling and getting better prices on video games. As per my Patreon page, once per month, the highest tier, if you are in that bracket, you get to suggest or pick videos for me to do, and this one was suggested by Casey, and I actually really do like the idea. Something that I've been known for on YouTube for the longest time is being cheap, something that I've tried to enforce myself really, and something that's come across very well in my videos is that I don't like spending a lot of money on video games. Well, I still manage to amass quite a lot of video games, so how do I do that not spending any money? It's a very valid question, and I wouldn't mind sharing some of my tips, I guess, some of my strategies on haggling. So for those of you who don't know or haven't seen my game room before, this is not it actually. My game room is in Australia in boxes, in a lot of boxes and totes and tubs, packed up in storage actually at a friend's house. And once you put it with the stuff that I have collected here, because I moved to North America about a year and a bit ago with pretty much nothing, with like one suitcase of current gen Wii U games and PlayStation 4 games to play, I've managed to, without trying, amass more. And once I put all my games together, I'm gonna guess I probably have somewhere in the realm of 1,000 to 1,500 video games, at least 50 to 60 consoles if you wanted to count handhelds and stuff like that, probably even way more. So I have amassed quite a lot over a short period of time. And I think one of the ways I managed to collect everything so fast in such a short period of time was the fact, you know, I am young and I really didn't have too many responsibilities. So apart from paying rent and going to work every weekend or every afternoon or every morning or whenever I had a day off, my spare time was spent hunting video games. So I guess persistence is definitely a big tip. Is you can't go to the same single pawnbrokers or cash converters or market once a month, once every 2 months and hope to find something different. Honestly, especially now even more than when I started collecting, it's drying up, it's getting harder and harder. So if you go to one place repeatedly, every now and then, you're not gonna find anything. Or you might if you're incredibly lucky, but again, it's just luck. You really have to get out there every day, Monday through Friday. And it's weird because when you do it enough, you start to get a feel for certain areas. Like I don't know this area too well right now because I don't have a car and I haven't managed to get around. But back in Adelaide, I used to know that the Value Village near Christie's Beach, if you went on Thursday, it's when they put the games out and no one had really hit it up yet. The more I went to these places, the more I built connections with people, the more I built friendships with some of the people that worked there. At Cash Converters, I went in so much that one of the guys started giving me heads up when stuff would come in. And that's a great way to get stuff too, is getting the heads up. I got the heads up at Cash Converters so many times, I always got to have first pick of what came in. And it happened with the Southern Games that I went to a bunch and filmed at a bunch back when I was in Adelaide. I went in there so many times that he knew that I was the guy that was gonna buy games. He didn't mess around calling someone else because he knew if he called me, he could make a sale. So that was another way where I made a lot of stuff, and because I was going back and forward so much, he was always willing to work out deals, always willing to do 2-for-1s, always willing to come down on prices because he knows it's not just a one-off sale. I'm gonna be back next week buying 30 more things, so why wouldn't he want to give me a good price? Now, as far as swap meets and flea markets and stuff like that go, I mean, some areas suck. This area sucks for game hunting in general. There's very few game stores. There's about 4 or 5 game stores actually, which I mean, to its credit, is more than Adelaide, Australia, where I live. Game stores definitely wasn't a strong suit for that area. Every area is different. This area has game stores, but they're all really expensive. They're all Vancouver, BC prices, and prices for everything here is high in general, not just video games, but video games are definitely high. And I ain't amassing a huge collection buying video games on a $9 an hour server wage. That ain't happening. And flea markets also suck here. Flea market, there's one enclosed one, and apparently there's one outdoors one that I haven't managed to get to yet. But the enclosed one is, again, there's about 2 or 3 people that sell video games, but they're there every single week, and it's pretty much a store and a flea market, so the prices are jacked up. So you correct me if I'm wrong, Vancouver or Coquitlam, but at least that undercover flea market sucks. Flea markets typically back in Adelaide, when you had so many of them, there were definitely ones that had people that would go every single week and they would set up. Those people, they suck. If they have video games or they sell video games, or even if they get one video game in, they go there every week. So they know if they have a video game in, it's going out the door. So when they finally get one in, they're gonna price it high. They've been there long enough to know. Video game sellers go every week. There's a reason why they go every week, because they know how much money they can make and they keep trying to make as much money as they can. So try and find the swap meets that are always different people, mums, dads, family, cousins, whatever, that are moving house or they're getting rid of stuff and they bring stuff in the back of their car and they set up one time, they sell through it all, and and they never come back. Those are the ones that have the old consoles, the old games, or even like current games, and they just kind of want it all gone because it's in their way. They're not coming back next week, so they need to sell it while they're there. And they really probably don't even have any worth or value. A lot of people just seem to think that once they buy a game, the value goes, and like the next year, like all the new games are out, so no one cares about the old games. So that's definitely a good way of finding games, is if you have swap meets that have different random people going every week, and you frequent them every Saturday, every Sunday, or whatever day they're on of every week, you are eventually going to find something. You have to eventually find something. And ask too. If you see a mom that has kids, or even teenagers, or just anyone in general, if you just get a general feeling, or even if you don't get a feeling, ask them if they have games, or if they have anyone that has games. Look around their booth for a little bit. You'll probably hear them say something like, looking for anything in particular, or can I help you, or this is cheap, like this is like buy two get one free. They might point to like dolls that they made or something, and that's where you can say, I'm just looking for video games. Do you have any? Do you know anyone that's selling video games? Do that all the time. More often than not, they'll at least take your number down, and they might give you a call later on if they find something. And I have had that happen a few times, and I've bought games that way. So that's how to find video games. Persistent. Go to everywhere, Google places in your area, go to Google Maps, type in video games and see what comes up. Go to the swap meets, go to the garage sales, go to the stores, go to the cash converters, go to the pawnbrokers, go there all the time, frequent as much as you can, find your areas that sell certain things at certain times, find places that you tend to find gold at more often at certain times of the week. So that's how to find them. But now how do you haggle? How do you get those prices down even further? Well, obviously the easiest places to haggle are with random people, the moms and the dads at the swap meets and stuff like that. It goes without saying, if you're at a swap meet and someone looks at something and they're like, oh, $10, like they're just making a price up in their head. Like if they don't come down even $1, that's a little weird. Like they're gonna come down a little bit because they don't know what it's worth. So if you look at it and you're like, oh, $10, would you do like 8? Would you do 5? Would you like, you could seriously be like, sorry, I'm not looking to spend more than like $4 or $5 on this game. They'll probably offer it for 5, like more often than not, because they honestly don't care. Sure, they want to throw out a number that they can get some value out of, but I mean, especially if the game's not even worth $10, just ask if you can get it any lower, and they probably will. That's the easiest one. And bundling is easy in that situation too. If they have 10 games on the table, make an offer on the 10 games. Honestly, if you ask them how much they want for like X game and they're like $2, and that's the only game you really want, but there's 9 other games on the table, just ask them. Be like, would you do the lot for 10? It's $10. Unless they're all like sports games and literally nothing you do not want to touch, try and bundle it, because the chances are you can get everything for $8, $10, like not much at all. Always try and bundle. So bundling's a great way. Even if you just pick up 2 and you say, would you do like 2 for 3 or something like that, or you don't even have to be that abrupt about it. If they're like, oh, it's $5. We pick up 3 and would you do 10? In their head, they're going to be like, paying for 2, get 1 free, sure. Or maybe they'll say $11, $12. But if it's 3 good games that are worth like $10, $20 each, it's $12. When it comes to haggling in stores, it can be a little harder unless you know the store owner, unless you've made a relationship, and that's something that can be the first step, is going in a lot, making a relationship, making friendships, knowing the guy. When he starts calling you, then you can start calling on him for like good deals and stuff like that. So that's one way of doing it. If you just want to like straight up go into a store you've never been to before, I mean, you can try and haggle. I've always tried to haggle. I mean, people will get annoyed at me. Like I know Metal Jesus got annoyed at me when I tried haggling in Pink Gorilla, and people online got annoyed at me when I tried haggling in Pink Gorilla. I get that it's a business. I get that they're trying to, pay rent or whatever. But again, like it's a retro game store, and at that point, and in general, I don't know what they paid for this game. It's all very loose. It's very much, we'll pay this because I think we can get this. They'll look online, they'll see that it sells between $8 to $12, and they'll put, like $10 to $12 on it because they want to try and get as much as they can, and that's how businesses work, and that's fine. But something like retro video game stores, or like pawnbrokers, or anywhere that sells secondhand goods or stuff that isn't theirs, that they get in for random prices and then sell for, what is essentially, in my view, random prices, but like around about where the market is. There is a chance they might haggle with you. There's flexibility there. So I always try, and obviously I learned the hard way that you cannot haggle on Pink Gorilla. The reason why I asked was because the game was, I think, listed for like on sale for 10. I think I asked for like 8, and then I asked for $9, because in my eyes, if this guy knows, if this came in recently and he knows he paid $1 for it and he's putting up for 10, then, you know, 8, $9 he's still making profit. That was my logic, and I was hoping that's the way it would play out. Who knows, maybe they spent $5, $6, $7 on that game and selling it for, you know, less than what they had on it. $10 wasn't worth their time. I didn't know that. I learned my lesson, and sometimes you just gotta learn your lesson like that. So I mean, you can't haggle in Pink Gorilla, but try. It doesn't matter where you are. Most retro video game stores will haggle. That Pink Gorilla is actually the only retro video game store, from my knowledge, that I have ever walked into that I can remember right now and haggle in. And even if there was another one that wouldn't let me haggle, for the most part, everywhere I can think of 20 stores that have. And not just because I know them. I've walked in the stores here. There's actually a store in downtown Vancouver that I've haggled in many times. Buy 3, get 1 a little cheaper even. So I mean, like, it's games that I want, and I'm not getting a huge deal. I'm not getting anything free or anything like that. I don't expect free when they're trying to pay rent, when they're trying to pay a cover. But if I'm buying 3 games for your retail, and you know, you've paid $1 or $2 for these games, and the 4th game at $10, $20, you knock it down $5, $10. I think that's a win-win for both people in that situation. You've paid less than what you made for it. You sold 4 games at once, so you've made a decent profit. I've left happy, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to buy more games for you next time. Haggling in retro game stores can be tricky, and depending on the owner, they might not like it. And you have to respect that. It's their store, it's how they want to run it. It is a business, and I do respect that. But if you can find somewhere that haggles, that's fucking great. And go there all the time, because those are the kind of stores that you're going to get good deals at. And those are the kind of stores that are going to let you bundle. Then that's the place you want to be buying your games, in my opinion. Because there are so many old games. There are thousands of old games. And if you're a collector like me and you want as many as possible, you got to find ways to do it as cheap as possible. So if you're limited to game stores, find the place that lets you haggle. Find the place that lets you knock $1 off. If you knock $1 off every game you buy, and you buy a game a week, or even you buy like 10 games a week, that's $10 you save a week. That's like $120 you save a year. That's a bunch more video games right there. And usually you can knock off more than $1 anyway. If you knock off $2 when you haggle, you're saving $250 a year. And that's the way I think that's why I see myself as cheap, but at the same time, I don't think it's a bad thing to assess like life in general that way. I go out with my friends and we'll go out, I'll kind of be like, well, I feel like buying a coffee, and they'll be like, well, buy yourself a coffee. And I'll be like, well, I had a coffee yesterday. And they'll say, well, why does that matter? And it's because coffee's like $3. And if I buy a coffee every day, like I wish I could buy 5 coffees a day, but if I buy a coffee every day at $3 a day for a week, that's like $21, which is like, God, a few hundred a year on coffee alone. And you know, if you do that with a few more things, like, you know, you knock off a bottle of Coke here and there, or you knock off a donut you didn't need to buy. If you keep shaving things down like that you really don't need in life, suddenly you're saving $500, $1,000 a year. And if you do that with games, you knock off $1 here, $2 here, you knock off $10 here, you bundle and get one for free. Suddenly you're saving $500, $1,000, $2,000 a year, who knows? I mean, as I said, I have over 1,000 video games, 1,500 video games, something like that. If I saved $1 on every game, that's $1,500 right there. That is a ton more video games. And I know for a fact that I've saved more than $1 on every game, because offhand I can think of games worth $100, $200 that I've managed to pick up for 10, 20 at flea markets, or caught people slipping in stores and stuff like that. So I've saved thousands doing it this way, thousands. And that's why I know, that's why my video game collection blew up so much so fast, is because of doing that. Because if every 10 games, if I'm saving $1 on every game, I can buy a game worth $10. I can buy another Mario for the NES. I can buy whatever it is that I want. So not at least trying to haggle when it comes to retro games is dumb, because everyone makes their own prices. No matter where you go for a retro game, that price, someone's made that price. There are ways you can try and get an official price for a game. Like, you can go to eBay and if 10 have sold recently and they all sold for exactly $18, probably safe to say that game's worth $18. That very rarely ever happens. Depending on condition, you can go between $16 to $17, $18, $19, $20, $21, $22. There'll be that one jackass that just wanted that one game from his childhood, and there's only one on eBay that day, so he bought it for $50 because he doesn't give a shit, and now he's driven the price up on that game when it really didn't need to be driven up. That kind of stuff happens all the time, and when a store gets a game in, they just kind of base it on their eyes, I guess, for like looking at a game and like, yeah, I get this is like decent quality. I'm gonna say this game's probably worth about the same as that game that sold for 18, so I'm gonna put it up for 18 or even like 19 or 20, whatever it is that they decide that they're putting the game up for. So wherever you buy a retro game, it's a price that someone somewhere has made up and put on that game and then put on a shelf. So unless that store or that place has an explicit policy not to haggle no matter what, whoever made that price up is more than likely going to be willing to come down. More than likely. If someone walks in and they're like, I wouldn't say that's $18, I'd say that's worth more like 15, he's probably going to be like, you know what, I got it for $2, or you know what, I got it in a bundle, or you know what, I bought it for $8 even. Okay, so that's where to find games and how to haggle, ways you should haggle. And I think the only thing that would maybe stop someone from getting a good deal at that point is the way you approach the situation. A lot of friends of mine that go out to certain places or take me certain places will say that, you know, I've been here 3 times, he's never haggled for me and he's haggled for you. I get that a lot. Or I go places with someone who generally just doesn't haggle. My friend Super Derek doesn't haggle. He doesn't feel comfortable haggling. He feels really awkward doing it. And I'll just do it. And sometimes it can be embarrassing depending on where we are. Because I can just blatantly get shut down. And I guess that's why he doesn't like trying to do it, is because he doesn't want to get just blatantly shut down and feel silly. I don't feel silly though, because I gave it a shot. You know, I have my reasons why I tried. And nothing on him for not feeling comfortable doing it. Power to him if he wants to pay the prices, especially because I know he really only shops at stores where he knows the owners and knows the friends. So he's happy paying the prices for his friends, and that's completely fine. But it is situations like that with Super Derek where I will go out and I will haggle, and he'll be like, wow, I've never managed to haggle here before. And I think it's definitely in part the way I approach it. And I don't really know how to elaborate or explain, hey, this is how my personality comes across, because I have no idea how it comes across. But I do get the feeling that a big part of it is how I present myself when I haggle, when I approach someone. The only ways I know that I don't really try and do it, but if I'm trying to think to you guys about how to vocalize what I do, there's a few things you need, I think. Confidence is one, but at the same time, you don't want to be rude. That's the biggest thing. Like, it's someone's store, it's someone's property. If I was selling video games, if I decided I wanted to sell my video games and someone came in and snatched something off my shelf and said, $15? This is worth like $5. I'll give you 5 for it. If you just take, here's $5, take it. It's not worth 15. Even if like, I would realize at that point, oh, I've mispriced that. That's only worth $5. I'm still not gonna give that. I'm gonna be like, no. So yeah, approach people with confidence, approach them nicely about it, respect the fact that it's their store, and if they don't wanna haggle, they don't wanna haggle. You gotta just bow out at that point, decide if you wanna pay the price. But if you just generally be nice about it, I don't think anyone's gonna get offended if you ask to haggle. But the biggest thing I can recommend, again, out of any of this, is unless you can find a video game store with a really nice owner that's willing to give you a call when you get stuff in and really work out deals with you on a regular basis, go to the garage sales every weekend that you can. Do garage sales as often as you can. Do swap meets as often as you can. Get out there as often as you can and haggle with prices if you do manage to find anything. And ask them if they have anything else that they might be willing to sell, their family might be willing to sell, give them your number. That's really how I made my collection happen for me. Obviously it worked in my area of Adelaide. I don't even know where I would start collecting here in Coquitlam other than Craigslist, which I don't really ever do, which is why I didn't really talk about it. I don't like Craigslist or Gumtree. But other than Craigslist here and trying to buy some stuff off friends, you can ask around at work. I've asked around at work a few times to see if anyone has any games, and that works for me sometimes. Vancouver isn't great for game collecting. That's my tips on haggling, how to haggle, where to find video games. I hope any of that became useful to you. Again, I did this video because it was recommended by one of my Patreons. If you want to donate to my Patreon, there'll be a link in the description below and also be here. I almost never talk about it because I don't like bringing it up all the time, but there are actually a lot of really cool rewards that you can get. I think they're cool, maybe you don't, but I had a Skype call the other night with like a bunch of my Patreons for an hour, and we have a Patreon Facebook chat. We're all in there, it's on Facebook, we're all in there 24/7, and we're all talking to each other, and it's actually become like a little family. And I know all you guys from the Patreon chat are watching this, and you guys are my family and you are my friends, and we all talk every day. And I'd love for you to join that chat. Just gotta join the old Patreon, and then you can join the chat and then get all the other benefits that I wrote on there. And that's all for me. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm gonna get a drink because I'm so thirsty, and I'll see you guys next time.
On this episode of The Game Quest,
Literally farting their way across the states.
Wood, the Game Chasers, and Alpha Omega Sin take the road and head towards the Retro World Expo in Connecticut.
Wood's got to see this place. We're making it our mission to take him to this shop.
Along the way, Wood makes new friends, finds tons of video games, and acts like a little bitch.
Little Australian bitch right now.
All this and more in the best Game Chasers episode that isn't actually a Game Chasers episode.